Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Wednesday night class here with Guy Finley. My name is Doug, and I'll be the host for tonight. And just to give you a little ground rules of tonight's class, those of you who are new here, first of all, welcome to you in the room, and welcome to all of you online. Glad to have you here tonight. It's going to be a great class, as always. As I was saying, the format for tonight is that Guy will speak about 60 minutes. We'll take a 5-minute break, and we'll come back for questions and answers. And those of you in the room, you're welcome to come up to this mic, and most of you know that, and share what questions you might have or questions. And then on GoToWebinar, you can talk to Guy directly by just raising your hand at that time, and I'll give you a little more information on that. And then if you want to write in a question, you can do that in the chat boxes or the question boxes at any time, and Kate will help you behind the scenes. So that's our format for tonight. I did want to mention a couple things for everybody, that this Sunday, it took me by surprise, is daylight savings time. So make sure to spring forward and set your clocks ahead. Saturday night, I think it's 2 a.m. So get up at 2 a.m. and set your clocks, or you can do it the night before. That's what I normally do. All right, so don't, write that down, make sure, and Chris has been giving us reminders, and those of you online, so the class will be a 1 hour later than it normally is. So, 1 hour later. Who said? Yeah, it was my wife, I think. Anyway, if you're in the room and you have a cell phone, please turn it off. And it's time now to do that. We're going to...
Leave it alone, please. Set your clocks 1 hour ahead. You're adults. You're responsible. Be where you should be at the right time. End of story.
Yes. And Charlie will call you if you're late. And he's back there with the phone numbers. All right, let's go ahead and get started. And tonight's topic is the 10 great rules of life. And the first of the key lessons is, when fear creates morality, as well as the rules governing them, there is no longer morality, as it is fear that governs.
I pause for a moment before greeting you to allow the numerous points that I want to make in this talk a little more time to organize themselves. If you're here for the first time on a Wednesday night, I always try to present a slightly different kind of class, and we're going to have even more different classes on Wednesday night. At least once a month we're going to have readings from those of you who have sent them in and that want me to examine and explore them so we can see them more differently, have a discussion around the ideas so we can all begin to see more deeply into the things that we need to see into. So that'll be something new coming. You'll hear about it in an announcement. But on the other 3 nights, or if it turns out to be 2 nights because the other 2 Wednesdays are gaining popularity and interest, we have what we call Discovery Wednesday. And Discovery Wednesday, very simply put, is an evening where the class is a little more proactive, where instead of just listening, we all participate in creating a broader picture, a larger idea of the world that we live in and share together, through the cooperation of you giving forth your understanding or your ideas relative to a topic that I bring up. We will do so tonight, but I'm not altogether sure how all of this is going to unfold. I believe it was last Sunday, there was a caller who had, I've never used this word before, took great umbrage. In other words, she was immensely irritated with something that I had said. And whether or not that person joins us is immaterial. What's important is that we all begin to understand what in the world goes on inside of any human being that they believe, regardless how seemingly essential it is, they believe that they are right and everyone else is wrong. And when everyone else is wrong and I'm right, I have the right to hate. I have the right to correct, to slam, to in any way I can prove that the pain I'm in is because of what you have asserted. And I don't want to leave that alone in your minds. It may not have rolled over with you, but nothing leaves my mind until the purpose of it, as best it can be completed, is completed. One day you will understand that. You let your mind just move you along and move you along according to its preferences, instead of you understanding the necessity of persisting with your attention to understand something so that at last you're no longer bothered by it, whether it's something short-term or something like what happened with that student. Now, in the meantime, I had several questions come in that in one respect seem not related at all, but they are totally related, and I'm going to read to you these 4 questions in part. It'll save time at the end of the meeting, but they all serve, as every question does, a way in which the person asking is saying, can you help me see what I can't see yet? That's everything. Even to suspect that I don't see the totality of a situation that's producing suffering or concern or conflict in me, even to suspect that is a major step in a person's work. And that's really the problem with what took place with this other person, is there was no room to see anything because of the unconscious certainty that made this person feel like you don't understand. It's you that's angry. It's you that's upset. So you'll see how all of this ties in. I mustn't waste a precious minute here. Here are the questions. Number 1, this is, and these were all from YouTube, I think, which is good because we stream out to a lot of platforms now, and it's nice to have engagement from all over the world on all the different platforms. So someone, I won't say her name, starts with an L and ends with an A. Well, she may not know, or she may never hear this, it doesn't matter. I feel the teachings are right and powerful. I've been listening to Guy for about 8 months, and I still have a hard time with the anger and or resentment he seemingly holds. I say to myself, it could not be given in his teachings. But every time I listen, his frustration with how none of us seem to be getting it is overwhelming. I love the teachings, but have trouble with this aspect of their presentation. I often wonder why he spends so much time laying out the problem and very little on the solution, exercises, and homework. I would like to hear at least something about how those who have learned to live in this way and what it's like to be and feel like that. It would be good to hear about successes. I don't need to be babied or complimented, but I would like to see the joy and beauty of living in this way more often. Now, I know that everyone here and out there feels like that sometimes. Why do you have to drive this point? Why that tone? Question number 2 from Mr. Normal. Here he quotes something that somehow or other he took from what I was talking about, or in his study of parallel teachings wanted to know how this relates to the teachings, the work that we're doing here. He said, Gurdjieff said, we do not have a soul, that we're not born with a soul. Question mark. So before I get into my material, let me tell you an aphorism of his that is deeply troubling if you understand it, and yet it does answer quite a bit of what he's asking. G also said, blessed are those who have a soul, blessed are those who have none. but woe be it unto those who have it in formation. How many of you understand the woe? Question number 3. Is this a proper statement? I need to leave my pain alone. I need to leave my pain alone. Is that a proper statement? So first, yes, Joe, it is a proper statement. But again, all of these questions are going to be tied into an impression through a couple of stories that I pray you will be open enough to hear, understand, and then want to more deeply explore. Question number 3. I've gone through so many different teachings by many men of God, but I'm still looking for the simplicity of it all. I'm soon to be 93, God bless your soul. And I'm not really in the peace that passes all understanding. I do find it in the silence at times, but my problem with my physical being makes me fearful and exhausted. I have problems sleeping for 23 years, which is difficult to take, let alone let go of. I live alone since my husband passed. Could you please explain? Let that mind be in you which was in Christ Jesus. Let that mind be in you which was in Christ Jesus. Then she signs off, thank you and blessings. So those 4 questions I'm going to address with one set of principles and with 2 stories. You ready? Take a nice deep breath, please. Let me start by telling you a story that does not originate with me. There was a beautiful, brilliant, enlightened human being. His name was Mr. Howard. I had the good fortune of studying with him for nearly 15 years before he passed, and passed along to me certain instructions that I have done my best to live up to. And long, long ago, and I'm embellishing his story because there are things germane to what we're going to look at together that require being explained in this story, and then you'll see how it all fits together. It was a very simple story, quite nicely told in its simplest of terms, about somewhere, and he never said this, but this was, you know how those stories start, long, long, long ago in a kingdom distant, Well, this story actually began long, long, long ago in a distant kingdom that was here on earth, but then gradually something happened to it. And he told the story of how, again, this is me embellishing it, a town was slowly built around this immense edifice, this immense statue that was sitting there in the middle of nowhere, but some men and women were attracted to it. And the statue, the sculpture, is the word I'm looking for, this immense sculpture, was just this giant arrow pointing straight up into the air. It was just big, tall arrow, 50 feet tall, granite. Just out of nowhere, this big arrow. And everybody didn't have to think about why they liked that. It was archetypal. It was an archetype inside of them. We are created as human beings. If you've ever had a problem, you don't usually look down, although now we do, and I'll get to that. Your attention usually rises. You want to see above. This beautiful arrow was the symbol of that, and it stirred in people that saw it a corresponding emotion. It was an impression from on high sown into the lower world. Well, it wasn't terribly long, 30, 40, 50 generations, and that's not long in the scheme of things. And somehow or other, whoever it was that gradually took over that town that was founded on this idea of the love of up began to get hold of that, and at night, little by little, began to turn the arrow so that instead of pointing up, it was pointing down. And it happened over such a long period of time that no one even noticed it had taken place. But the evidence of its restructure became evident in the town, because the town began to be filled with all kinds of miscreants, physical damage to buildings, to people harming one another, to all of the things inherent in the gradual corruption of something that started good. Do you understand the story? What does all that mean? What does that convey? Well, for one thing, if you can follow me, when all of it started, what was important to the people in that world was right in front of them at all times. There was nothing they did, saw, thought about that wasn't intimately connected to this innate longing that this impression stirred in them to always look up, to always hold the highest possible choices, actions, decisions. You understand that? But gradually, as that turned around, what happened is that instead of what was most important being what was up, what became most important had nothing to do with up. In fact, everybody in that town became consumed with gradually the only thing that those people knew to be consumed with, as their minds and hearts were directed by the downward arrow, which is, all I know to care about is myself. That's all I know to care about. Before, myself didn't come into it. There was just a general, broader understanding that there was something enveloping and good, and if we all held to that esteem, that we would all gradually and continually live in that world where that was the first and foremost movement of the mind. Are you following me? Now, I want you to understand, and I'm reticent to put this in for my question of time. I want you to understand that what that little story describes is the fall of Rome. And I'll tell you the truth, the fall of the United States, as I'll help you see. In Rome, what happened in Rome? The great city on what happened? Corruption. See, here's our problem, is that we have words, and we have no idea what they mean. I'll tell you what happened. Its inevitable descent was because little by little by little, I don't know if you know this, they had inflation. Did you know they took the drachma, I think that's what it was called, silver, and because they were running out of money, they cut slivers out of the drachma, and now that piece of money that used to represent a certain value now represented the same value, but there was less silver to it. So it wasn't the same value at all. So that civilization began to go through an inevitable descent born out of a body that was in charge for the good of the citizens of Rome, falling into more and more corrupted relationships because they continued to believe that everything was about them instead of about the greater good. And so you saw this fall and fall and fall. And do you know why the games in the Colosseum were created? To distract the citizens. Give them something to go do. People to hate. They can choose this side or that side. They can be against the Christians or whoever else it is that they throw in there to destroy. Give them something to be against. That's the task. Because if we can give people to be against something, they won't notice that what they're actually against is the greater law. Am I going too fast? You see it today. You just don't know it. You're watching the Colosseum when you turn on the news. So help me God, you are. The games, the political infighting, the violence that takes place between religious or otherwise affiliated groups, including the people who I started this talk with, who are so sure that they know what is supposed to be the way it's supposed to be, and that they alone know the laws. That by their insistence and the conflict in them and the pain it creates, all of us, because we're all in the same boat, you'll understand this, all of us begin to think to ourselves, you know what? Things they're not getting better. I have more enmity now than I did last year. There's more conflict in the world. But thank God, I know how to resolve all this. Thank God I know the rules. Are you following me? Yeah, I'm going to get you involved in this in a minute. Let me read to you the second key lesson before I go into the special writing that I prepared for you. You'll understand it, I trust, given the introduction. That we should search only our own conscience for confirmation of what is good and true. This is the best definition of integrity. For that which is good and true is not social in nature, but spiritual in need and in deed. That we should search only our conscience for confirmation what is good and true. This is the best definition of integrity. This is the best definition of a spiritual life. Because it is in a conscience that does not belong to any individual, but that we are intended to be the instrument of, if you want, the conscience of Christ, the conscience of the divine, the conscience of Buddha. That conscience we are meant to live within, and not by thought, and not by the actions we take to prove to ourselves and others that we are somehow those who know the laws, and anybody else that doesn't needs to be crucified or put into the Colosseum. This is our task. And I hope you'll again understand I'm answering those 4 questions. There's a special writing for tonight. You have it on your chairs, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm going to go over it with you somewhat in depth. Do we have it to post, I wonder? Please. No problem. Take your time. I'm going to read 2 paragraphs at a time, and depending on the significance of the 2 paragraphs, I will cover it briefly. I have quite a bit of material to get into with you. It's called The Consequence of Living Outside the Law. The consequence of living without conscience. What a strange mystery, a paradox locked in some seemingly timeless conflict. After all, how can all of us feel this great need for change to make ourselves and the world we live in a better, kinder place to live for all, and yet at the same time live in what feels like a perpetual war with an unending conflict between us as to not just how to bring about the end of what stands in the way of this greater peace, but how that rebirth is to be accomplished. Stop for a second. Imagine men and women fighting over what love is. See, here's the point. When I love something, if you don't love the same thing I love in the same way I love it, you don't understand. This is what happened to this person. And inherent in these questions is, I am absolutely on fire because I know how to put out the flame. You don't. How can 2 people who think they know what the fire is and the conflict, the pain in it, how can 2 people who have completely opposing views, and they do, anyone that disagrees with you, you see as opposing you, how can they ever bring about peace on this earth? Are you so childish, immature to believe that somehow some miracle is going to occur, and by God's grace they're going to elect the right political party and everything's going to be great? If you do, you don't know how lost you are. But where's the hope? If the leaders politically, religiously, climate gag, if they don't know how to fix everything, what are we going to do? And when I think I know how to fix everything, that, by the way, I didn't even know was broken until they told me it was broken, how am I supposed to get through all of this? And then once I know how to fix it, God help the human being who stands in my way. They are the enemy. Going on, paragraphs 3 and 4. Surely, before we can hope to renew and remake the world as we would all wish it to be, we must die to the images and all of our identification with them that separates us. But isn't this the very question? Let me go back. Before we can hope to renew and make the world the way we want it to be, we're going to have to give up our identification with the images that set us against each other. Yes? But isn't that the very question? How do I answer the source itself of the conflict that we see going on, not just around us, but within us as well? And if true, How are we to accomplish the renewal of ourselves in this world? If I am set against you at the smallest level, how in the name of God are you and I ever going to bring about the renewal and rebirth of a planet that was intended to be a living Eden and instead has turned into a giant fast food eatery filled with poison and all the other politics that produce the violence that we see, the conflict between human beings? Still with me? So the question was, how are we going to accomplish this? Next two paragraphs. It won't happen. That is until we stop blaming others for our pain. And when does that happen? When we see and understand that the conflict we have with others isn't because they're breaking the rules of life as we see them. Isn't that why you have conflict with others? They're breaking the rules. Isn't because they are breaking the rules of life as we see them. Rather, this pain, with all of its inherent violence, is because we believe we don't just know the rules by which all should live, but that we are the keeper of them. And woe be it unto anyone who challenges that assumption. And the last line is a summary. All sleeping human beings are outlaws. Now, is there not an unspoken law in that arrow that was produced before the beginning of time that said, lift up your eyes? Because the source of your existence doesn't belong outside of you and around you. It is in within you. And only as a man or woman begins to recognize where their hearts and minds and body must be, do they start to understand that the problem as it is right now, if you're still following me, is that I know pretty sure exactly what it is that's supposed to go on, when it's supposed to go on, because I've sorted all of this out. You have no idea the hell I've been through to get clear on how to stop you from creating my hell. Please? I mean, haven't you ever wondered, to the four questions, some of them, but it's all involved, how is it after reconciling so many battles with life and people where they seem to be out of whack? I've never been out of whack. That's called wacky. How is it that I can get all that kind of quieted down and then without even suddenly there's something else that opposes me? It's a phenomena how many times a day you feel like life has just said, nope, or you got to get going here. You got to do something, you got to fix something, you got to straighten it out. And we believe, because we believe we know the rules of our existence, the purpose for our being on this planet, because we believe we know the rules behind the purpose of our existence, we know when something has broken the law. And any time that you challenge me, you have broken the law, have you not? What's going on? Now I'm going to answer my own special writing here. And it's a subtle story. I pray that it gets to you. And just, Laura, to be clear so that you understand that. The urgency with which I address you is because you and I, in one way or another, are exactly the same human being. And you do not have the urgency. And until you have the urgency to see and understand where it is that you are living by a set of laws that have been stolen from on high and produced into something that points down and that takes you always into something critical for your self-being. For instance, just the fact that you, either by their fruits you know them, either what I say is true or it's not. And no one ever stops to think that perhaps part of the way in which the message is delivered is part of the message. Try to get this story. Please. So here's a distant kingdom, long time ago, this far, right? and the good king and the good queen are trying to, bring the other outlying kingdoms into the growing light the growing upward movement, if you want, that their kingdom represents. But, there's a lot of shadowy stuff out there, and they're not always interested. So king goes to the son and the daughter, the prince and princess, say, listen, we have the football team of the kingdom. They have a football team. That's not impossible. That we learn through things, they have a football team. So we want you to take our team and go to some of these distant kingdoms and engage them in a few games so they can see what it's like to play properly and be good sports. Are you a good sport? Oh, God. So, okay, that sounds like a good idea. So off go the prince and the princess and their football team, and they engage another team in a distant kingdom. Now, I'll do this briefly. I think it's funny, but you'll see. So there they are, and there's the kickoff. And, in a kickoff, one team kicks to the other team gets the ball and is supposed to score a touchdown. So when it's time for the kickoff, the other team, instead of kicking the ball off, the guy who's supposed to take and kick the ball takes the ball and starts running towards the other end zone like it's their ball. So he didn't kick it at all. Of course, this catches the good team from the kingdom completely off guard, and they run all that way, and the referee doesn't say anything, and the coach, nothing. So now they're running their plays. And to them, when they run a play, it's not over when the referee blows the whistle. The people from the good team on the good kingdom, when they're down or made a tackle, the other team's clobbering them, hitting on the head, jumping on, doing all kinds of stuff. And when, by some strange fate, the good team makes an interception just before the team in the Shadowland makes an interception, they run to the other field goals and get a touchdown. But when the score goes up on the scoreboard, it's for the other team. Now, they're starting to have some real concern, wouldn't you? And so they're in a huddle, and one of the men asked the prince, what's going on here? You ready? He said, it seems obvious that we're playing by two completely different set of rules. Do you understand that? I mean, the rules they're playing by aren't, they're the rules of whoever is on that team, whoever is coaching it, that they need to have in order to continue to win the game according to their best idea of winning. That's the rules over there. And they're just not cricket. Oh, that didn't go over. That's an English saying. That didn't go over either. Never mind. Transition. There are the rules that I live by, and then there are the rules that you should live by. And that's one of my rules, is that there are a certain number of rules. You don't know them until I let you know that you've broken them, that you have stepped out of bounds, and that you need to make some kind of amends. You need to change in order to live up to my rules. Are you following this point so far? God help you if you break one of my rules. Yes or no? Here we go with our list. Eric, let's bring it up. The list says, there it is. We're a little short-staffed tonight. Bear with us. What are some of the hard and fast rules that you live by moment to moment, day by day, when it comes to your relationships with the world and everyone in it? What are some of the hard and fast rules that you live by moment to moment, day by day, when it comes to your relationships with the world and everyone in it? Now, I've given you a hint. I'll prime the pump. Here's one of our rules as human beings, now always looking down, if you will. I have to win at all costs. That's a rule. Isn't it? Do you doubt it? Don't you want the last word? Isn't that a rule? Isn't that a rule? Here's another rule of mine. Nothing should challenge me. Zip. No, any moment that challenges me didn't get the rule book. And so I have to set the rules straight for whoever or whatever it is that has challenged me. Yes or no? Here's another rule of mine, ours. It's your job to understand my rules. It's not my job to understand yours. If you live properly, if you understood what I understand and the way I understand it, back to my essay, yes? When I say something, you just go, my God, that's genius. Let me get myself aligned with you the way you see the rules. Because if I do that, and everybody does that, which they're supposed to, then there would be peace and harmony on the earth at last. Is there any peace and harmony on this world? Or has the world fallen into deeper, ever greater corruption and violence? It has, because it is falling. It is headed down. Now, the reason that I don't know it's headed down is because I want a piece of it to take me up. Isn't that what you want? Look, I read today because I was interested in this. Do you know where the saying, let them eat cake, comes from? I don't know if you do. It's attributed to, but it wasn't her, actually. It was attributed to a princess at that time. And you know why she said, let them eat cake? I never knew this. I always thought it was stupid. But it shows the oblivious condition of a consciousness in one station that's making the rules, and everyone else that has to live under them that can't survive under those rules. Let them eat cake is what she said, because they were complaining that they didn't have enough eggs and cheese and stuff like that. So her solution was, let them manger brioche. Let them eat cake. In other words, so oblivious is she to the conditions that she has helped create that she believes the solution is just give them cake. If they don't have eggs and stuff like that, give them cake. Does anybody see a problem with that solution? You need eggs and milk to make cake. I can't be bothered. Let them eat cake. I can't be bothered with you. And you are a bother to me. The way you speak, the tones you use, your body posture, the angry parts of you that are challenging what I know is beyond question. All of this is a problem to me because because it opposes the rules that I live by. Please? So let's have you come in. Did we get any already? Yes, John, some rules that you live by.
It is my responsibility to make everyone agree with my rules.
Yeah. My responsibility to ensure everybody follows my rules. John, Roger.
I have to fix everything.
Please, Roger, you're a big man. Why do I have to ask you to speak up?
I have to fix everything.
That's a rule. If the boat's rocking, I got to get the ballast in there. Terry.
If I ask you to do something, you should do it.
When I say jump, you say, and if you don't, Nick, I'm owed. It's a rule. I'm owed, and it's just part of the rule, subsection B3, that you are responsible to see that I get what I'm owed. Yes or no? On the board, I should be looking at this. No one should question what I do. Jane, you need to listen and hear me, and if you do that correctly, you will agree with me. Everybody should agree with me. Namita says, I have to know that I will win. Yeah. This is good, Namita. I have to know I'm going to win before I even start the game. Because I'm not going to start a game that even has a chance for me to look bad. Now, you apply that across the board, not just ambitiously, but spiritually, yes? John says, I should... That's very funny. He says, I should get a discount. That's one of my personal rules too, John. I love that. In the room, anybody? Chrissy?
See me in the way I want to be seen.
Either see me the way I want you to see me, or you won't see me at all. That's not really true. See me the way I want to be seen, and if you won't, another rule is I'll pay you to see me the way I want you to see me. Yeah, a little more pointed, don't you think? Barbara.
Don't dare criticize me.
My rule, I'm beyond improvement. Yes, you are. Don't criticize me. Anybody else before we, Ellen?
Don't inconvenience me.
Do not disturb. Because anything that you do that disturbs me is in opposition to whatever the rules are that I have set prior to me even talking to you. Paul. It was the same one. Drew.
I don't like to wait on people. Don't be late.
Oh. Be late at the risk of your death. I am an important person. I have too many things to do. Never, ever make me wait. My problem isn't impatience, it's your ineptitude. Wayne.
You should know what I'm thinking.
No, that is exactly it. That's a great rule. You should know what I'm thinking. And I haven't even thought it yet. But as soon as I do, you need to be ahead of me, and if you're not, there's something terribly wrong with you. This is fun, isn't it, in a way? But aren't these all rules that we live by? It's stunning. Ian says, rule, you are not allowed to blame me. Of course. Only I can blame you. I love this. Okay, so we now, shift. What time is it? Can you see there's a disparity here between what I believe is true about myself, that I know I'm fairly ethically perfect, and what I believe the rules that I have should be really enshrined. And not only enshrined, but you should carry a small copy of it in your wallet or purse at all times so that we never have to fight about anything. Because if you're fighting with me, you've broken the rule. And that's why I have the right to hate you. Transition. Because this is what we're working to. Now we could, if we had more time, go through what I wrote in a little note to myself, the invisible code of ethics of all conscious human beings. The invisible code of ethics of all conscious human beings. There is a singular ethic. And it isn't man-made. Perfect love casts out fear. And if perfect love casts out fear, it casts out hatred. It casts out conflict. It casts out everything out of the unconscious nature that has identified itself with the downward pointing rules, the heart of which is what? What is the heart of all that? Now bear with me, and I don't have time to go into this the way I would like to because I've gone along a little longer than I want to already. I know that some of you, when I repeat certain lessons here, because why can't you get on with all the beautiful stuff? That's what people, you have no idea. Everybody, it's a blessing in a way for you, not because you're interested in what I teach, but that you've been able to stick through this in spite of the fact that I'm not giving you all of the positive success stories that you want. I'm describing to you a path to success that doesn't take thought and that doesn't require being supported and that isn't looking to be consoled by similar stories. And the path to success isn't through affirmation, it is through the gradual negation of an order of consciousness who has decided the rules of success. And if anybody doesn't live by that, then let them eat cake. Let them go through what I have to put them through in order to keep everybody noble and true and good as I am. Please, when I cover things that you think you understand, with God as my witness, and this isn't disrespectful, it's an urgent invitation. If I cover something with you, it's because I have seen something that you have not seen yet. And that our work is to receive these impressions as they are given, like pearls on a string, like a rope from heaven to earth, so that in receiving the impression, I don't have to ask, how do I have Christ in my life? Because when I receive the impression from on high, I am in relationship with what is on high. And when I understand the essential integrity in a conscience that is a singular action of a divine intelligence, I don't have to wonder what do I do or how do I do it. It is given to me in that moment to do it. Do you follow that? Everything that I presented just now, let me explain it to you through something I've said to you before. An old rabbi, really old, he wrote these 3 simple sentences. Do not get ahead of me. What a beautiful, beautiful soul that man must have had. To take and in 7, 14, in like 20 words, produce the perfect koan that answers every question that a man or woman has about why is the world the way it is? How come everything opposes me? What am I going to do with you who doesn't agree with my rules? How am I going to join some group and fix everyone so everyone's free according to me? He said, if I'm not for myself, who will be? Now, just to cover that, that's pretty evident, isn't it? I have to be for myself, don't I? But then he followed it up with another question. He said, but if I'm just for myself, what am I? If I'm not for myself, who's going to do it? But if I'm just for myself, what am I? And then he said, if not now, then when? Here's what he was saying, as best I'm able to share it with you. Everything about our life, our relationships with the world, with each other, including this unspoken turmoil of the relationship I have with my own mind and heart and body. Everything about our life is personal. Everything is personal. He's saying it's impersonal. It's not about you. It's not about me. It's about another order of being. And if not now, then when does that impersonal order of being step up and begin to, listen, not create rules, but be the rule? So that I cannot have a problem with another human being, their opinion, their belief, whatever it is that they're doing, unless their rule is personally set against my rule. All of your rules that you take so personally aren't yours. You learned them. You were conditioned. You were beat into submission. You sat at a table underneath it waiting for the crumbs to fall off of whoever it is or whatever it was that you thought could feed you. You did all of that and you never knew you did it because like the people that lived in that world where the arrow was pointed up and then went down, it happened over a period of time and it was never seen. Your mother, my father, their father, you can go back pretty far in time. But if you go back far enough, there was a time when a man was his word. There was a time when people could no more cheat, lie, steal, or betray each other than you would ask a shark to take you to shore if you fell off a boat. But don't think to yourself that exists now. What exists now is our identification with that image, so that we should be like that. And because we are like that, which is pretty evident to us, no one else lives up to that law or that rule. And that's why everybody has to be pushed around to make sure they're in agreement with what we believe is true. Why do I suffer? Look, I know I've reached a point in this talk that it's mind-blowing. Your mind is meant to be blown by the light that comes into it. It's mind-blowing. What do you mean? Real life is impersonal. That's the law. That's the law. That's why we're lawbreakers. Because for us, everything is personal. You can't look at me. You can't whisper. You can't sit in a restaurant and wonder what those people are talking about so that you can take it personally. I'm on the street driving my car. Here's an idiot. Didn't he get the rule book? I shouldn't have to put sirens up on top of my car so people move over when I'm driving. I watch the news. And by the way, you should watch, whatever the news is you watch, you should watch the other news too. So you can see that there is a war about how to bring an end to the war. And that all of it is driven by the love of person, by what I'm identified with. I know what's right. I know what's true. It should be like this, not like that. On the other side, they're going, it should be like this, not like that. And then you put those people together in a room, and what do you get? The government. You get your family. You get a world that is set against itself because it doesn't know it has fallen into a world that is set against the great law of love. And love is impersonal, not personal. Love never considers itself first. It considers all at the same time. And if it considers all at the same time, it would be impossible for it to blame the pain that it's on someone else, because it would see in that same moment that it entered into that moment with the pain. And why was it in pain? Because it was identified with the laws and the rules that that consciousness had created, and that not only creates, but continues to drive and sustain. This world believes that you can make laws to fix the laws that created the conflict, failing to see that the more laws there are, the deeper the division, the more conflict between those who are ascribing to and identifying with this law over that law. I'm saying this to you not to create despair, but to show you the only hope you have as a human being. The answer to all four of those questions, including the incident at the end of that class. I have to understand. God help me. The only reason I'm negative and hateful and angry is because you have broken the law. And if I can understand anything that we have just shared, do I want to live by the law that points down into ever diminishing returns, more and more darkness, or do I want to live by the law that by its very existence is the very essence of love itself, the essence of impersonal life? Now, I don't have time. We run out of time. Can you see, how many of you can see, if you can put it together, that any time that you think someone has broken the law, the extent of your anger or fear or doubt is because to the extent of how personally I have identified with that rule or that law. Yes or no? Yes. And all that's required of you is to allow the light of Christ, to allow the light of that understanding to show you that. There's nowhere to go. You're not going to, this is the essence of spirituality today, is learn as many things as you can about different kinds of scripture, turn them into affirmations that are very pleasing to the palate, and then when things go bad and you're in pain, just go drink or eat from that box of nothingness that this nature has created for itself so that it can continue to live by the rules that it knows are true and good. But woe be it unto you, O Muslim, O Christian, O Jew, O Hindu, woe be it unto you whose political tastes vary from mine, woe be it unto anybody that didn't know what I was thinking before I thought it, and that didn't have the rule book that I didn't even write myself, but that I live by as if it is the only set of rules there are on the planet. Has this sunken in at all? Yes. Read the special writings several times. I would suggest it to you strongly. And then let's get on with dying to ourselves. This self lives because it has a rule book that gives it the sense of life when the rules are resisted by anyone or anything around it. So this self lives on negativity. And when you understand that negativity and the ingestion of it, the embodiment of it, how many of you would like to be the incarnation of negativity itself? Well, congratulations. For the most part, that's what happened. And our solution to the ceaseless pain of being in unending resistance to what is true and good and uplifting, our endless resistance to it proves that we know the rules. Except that we're outlaws. Spiritual outlaws that think they're the sheriff. And that'd be quite the story, wouldn't it? Let's take a break, come back and have our dialogue.
Well, welcome back, everyone. We're going to get started in just a minute. I want to just give a reminder to those of you online that all these free talks online are sponsored by the Life of Learning Foundation here in Southern Oregon, where the guy is a director. And I don't know about you, but if you felt something from this talk tonight, that something you felt it was very personal and that it was revolutionary in its content, and that you'd like everybody to be able to hear it. That's the kind of talk for me this was tonight, that you'd like everybody to be able to hear these words, to be able to make an impact on this planet, as Guy is always trying to do in his own way. So if you'd like to help us, please know that every donation you make, no matter the size, does just that, helps us reach out and with the teachings with these teachings all over the world. And no matter the size of your donation, small or large, it's all helpful, and we do appreciate anything that you do. And people who are regularly giving, we appreciate that as well. So anytime you can go to guyfinley.org/donate, and you can go there now or get that link down and you can donate at any time. So we do appreciate that. That's how we run this foundation, is pretty much all through donations. So help us if you can. And we'll go ahead and go on now to, let's bring Guy in and we can get started. Okay, there he is. Do you want to say anything more, Guy, or should we get started?
No, I've said my piece.
Okay. I was hearing music. I didn't, when I was talking, I don't know if that was going on, but all right. So everyone, if you're on GoToWebinar, you can talk with Guy directly. It's a great time to do it. Raise your hand by clicking the little hand icon and come into the queue. If you have a written question, go ahead and do that in the question box, or if you're on one of the other platforms, you can do it in the chat box. All those 4 questions I was holding for you, Guy, and now they're all answered. So we have no leftover questions, and there's no one in the queue yet.
Well,
there's no.
Leah,
Go ahead.
Leah has come up.
Kate says, go ahead.
Leah has come up to the mic, and she can start us off.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Leah. In listening to this talk, I was just sitting there listening to Doug, and the impression came to me, it became so clear in relationships how you can be talking to someone and having a great time, and then all of a sudden the energy shifts.
They broke the rule.
Someone has broken a rule. And
Love, love, love. Do,
Yeah.
do, do, do. Love, love, love.
And then I can see where Leah, when she realizes she's broken a rule, she might not know what rule it was, but she knows she's going to do a song and dance to try to
Because that's Leah's
reestablish-
rule. That's exactly
Yes.
right. That is 100%
to
right.
reestablish the connection so that we can move on again and have a good time, hoping we don't break any more rules.
Yeah,
It's the walking on eggshells.
exactly. Come on up, Nick. Nick's walking up to the mic, and we can take Namita while he's walking up there, Doug.
Okay, let's do that. Namita, I'll unmute you. There you go.
Hi, Guy.
Hi, Namita.
So these days, increasingly, I feel like it is becoming, life is becoming more and more impersonal, and it feels like I'm starting to see that my mind can do a lot more than just the day-to-day things. And and a lot of other things are coming in, as I don't know, a lot of information is coming in. Like, for example, manifestation or maybe there are other dimensions to this mind that you can explore. But I don't feel right about going into, like manifesting anything or, doing something for some, others, because I see that there's no others. Or, so why should I manifest anything? Because it doesn't make sense to me.
Okay, so
And I just
hold
feel
on.
like being silent.
Hold on a minute,
And
because
not to be
you're
into that.
you're expressing a certain conflict and contradiction in your consciousness that I want to help you see. So there's something in me, manifest. I just want to manifest. I want to make stuff. I want to get stuff. I want stuff to come to me. I need more stuff than I've got. I need different stuff than I have right now. And I'm going to manifest better stuff downstream when I become someone better who can do that. Now my mind is going, yeah, but you know that manifesting, it doesn't really work. I can see that it's not good. See, that's a mind in conflict with itself. It has desires that it wants to answer its emptiness, and it is fighting with its own desire because it desires not to be someone who wants to manifest. You need to see all of that at once. I had this incredibly strong intuition, an epiphany, as it were. You know all of the stories, in particular, Perseus kills the Minotaur in the great labyrinth of Tarsus, something like that. The labyrinth, you know the labyrinth? Everybody know the labyrinth, the monster at the center of it? The sleeping mind, the intellect by itself, the heart by itself, is the labyrinth. It seeks what it can never find because it seeks the end of its seeking. It cannot do it. Nothing the mind will ever manifest will answer its spiritual need to know love that is incorruptible. Now, you can't get there with thought, but you can hear the idea and begin to recognize, you know, that I've done a lot of manifesting. Say it out loud, I'm a manifester. And I'm damn proud of it. I've manifested stuff. And I am. Look at your life. In the West particularly, we've manifested hell. But not because manifestation is hell in itself, but because manifestation belongs to a rule of mind that says, if I can create this reality, I'll be free. And the more I create a kingdom in my own image, the more I am a captive of the consciousness that does that. I need to see that. The more I see it, Namita, the more you see it, the more quietly impersonal your life will become. Because when something comes up inside of you that's very personal, like it wants more of this, it wants to look at that, it wants to manifest this, it's afraid something it's manifested is going to get unmanifested. You'll be the impersonal witness of that mind. Then you will begin to be free, not because you're trying to manifest freedom, because you have seen for yourself firsthand that the freedom already exists. You need to stop manifesting the prison that you call the perfect life. On we go. Nick's up on stage, Doug.
Thanks, Guy. You know, when you spoke, you said a word that's been in my thought process for quite some time, the word betrayal.
Yes.
And, you know, the arrow turning upside down was a slow act of betrayal. You know, people allowed themselves to be betrayed.
Yes.
And that's conditioning, you know, and the...
Okay, yes, it is, but wait. It wasn't so much that they allowed themselves to be betrayed. They were participants in the betrayal.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
And if I would draw that back to the conditioning at a time when you allow yourself to maybe to be betrayed when you're not really capable of knowing that, in a younger area time. You're allowing yourself to be betrayed. At my point, and I'm hoping my finger, you might have to button this up, but is there an enragement in this subconscious conditioning of we all know somehow we're betrayed, and the fact that if somebody steps out, everybody will say, get back in line, stay betrayed, stay asleep.
Okay, so let me help you. Go sit down. I always utter a certain silent prayer. It just passes through me involuntarily. Please God that you can hear and understand. So I know, and I won't go into depth, that Nick is asking this because it's quite personal to him. Not because he's told me that, but because I know it. You never allowed anyone to betray you. You were part of a consciousness that couldn't do anything other than participate in what it thought it needed to protect itself or to punish someone or to do whatever had to be done so that I can get through this difficult moment unscathed or come out on top of it. The fall of humanity, the fall of human beings, was the fall into the opposites. That's what the fall was. The fall into a level of consciousness that wants to know what is good by claiming to know what is bad, and knows what is bad because it claims to know what is good. These are opposites that are complementary in the higher world, but in this world they set one against another, and when I identify with one against the other, then I'm in that war. That's what a lot of this talk was about. Nick, do not blame yourself or anyone else. Don't blame yourself for being someone who this happened to or that it shouldn't have happened to. That's all a way in which the mind that is trying to escape the pain recreates it and drags you back into that labyrinth, into that prison. You hear me? Okay. On we go. If there's some place to go.
All right, I have a written question for you from Annette. And Annette asks, so the law that works for us is to follow God's law rather than our own law?
Okay, Annette. But see, the world is full of the violence it is because people believe they know what God's law is and they're trying to follow it. People believe they know what the right law is in this political or this religious or this financial situation. I know what the right law is, and I'm following it. And the only problem there is that you're an idiot and you're not following it. So I'm going to have to kill you. I'm going to have to take from you what you've got so I can finally have enough. And then when you're in the right place, I'll dole some out to you. Yes? And this goes to the question that was asked from the woman who is 93 years old. You're not here to follow some law. You are here to be the law. You're not here to try to imitate or follow what you think is a loving act, a Christ-like being. You're here, as Christ said, to enter into the Christ that is in the Father, that is there before you ask for it, and that knows what you need before you can even dream it up. To be. This is our work. Because when you can be, how do I say this? When you can be without having a personal reaction or resistance to what you see yourself being in that moment, the light of that awareness will not only change what you are, but it will change what you see from that point on. And it is perpetual because God is good and never stops giving the grace of that kind of change. Anything else, Doug? Here comes Chrissy.
Oh, yeah, we have another question. You want to do that first?
No, I want Chrissy because I'm afraid of her.
Oh, me too.
Because if you don't follow Chris's law, yeah.
This is such a perfect talk. It's such a perfect talk. Chris has so many rules. when I was raising my kids, and even to my grandkids, I will hear myself say, we don't do that. This family, we don't do that, you know.
At least not in public. When I'm by myself, it's fine.
No, we don't do that.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I have one little granddaughter. She tends to be lazy, you know, and I'll say to her, in this family, we are not lazy. You've got to get over that, you know, go do what I say. But all the pain in the expectation and the rules that we set for everyone in our lives
That we have been set into.
right, is so that I won't be in pain. If you step out of my rules, then I'm in pain, and so I have to try to button up everybody because there's just so much pain in here. Otherwise, I could just let you be you, and it wouldn't hurt me in any way. But I want to just say one more thing that
Take your time, Chrissy.
yeah, that I saw today. So on Wednesdays, we have our accountant here, and it always seems to be a long day. And then when I get home, maybe at 4:30 or 5, and then we have to be back here by 5:30. So anyways, today I took a few moments to be quiet when I got home. And in my meditation, you know, I have a prayer or two that sometimes I just like to recite to bring my attention back to the moment. And this was just like so funny. So here I am saying this prayer, and that's my intention. And then the next thing I know, my mind is somewhere where absolutely it should not be. But I just had to laugh because that's what we have no control over our mind. It's just a wild child that goes here and it goes there, and it was still churning from the activity of the day. But there doesn't have to be a punishment in that. Our job is just to see the activity of the mind so it can educate us.
She saw that the I she was identified with disappeared the moment that something unconscious captured it and seamlessly went from one I to a completely antithetical I, that we don't do that in this family. Okay, Doug.
Okay, we have a question from Neil, and then Julie is in the queue. So let's go to Neil first.
Okay.
He asks, do each of us have written within us the ability to be free or conscious without the assistance of professionals, psychiatrists, spiritual leaders, or religious affiliations? Is love the answer?
What's that passage? God did not create the spirit of fear. And the only fears that we have and that we are plagued by and that we fight with others over and that we live in constant conflict with anything that opposes what it is that we think the rule is. The only reason there is that, Neil, is because without knowing it, we're identified. And in a strange twist, all of the identification is an attempt. It is a false substitute for love. Because when I'm identified with something, momentarily, I am united with it. But the problem is that what I'm identified with is a condition, concept, ideal, belief outside of myself, as all are. And when I identify with any kind of image, thou shalt have no graven images. When I'm identified with any image, the very fact of that identification produces conflict. Because the image will change, the conditions will change, someone will challenge it, and then that which was the source of my love becomes the very bottom, the very basket of hatred and anger I feel towards that circumstance. And it's simple to say love is the answer. But I'll tell you, I rarely say things like this. It may take lifetime after lifetime after lifetime to understand that. And to do so only in a very dedicated way. Where is that thing? Oh, I threw it away. I'm going to dig it out. Hang on, guys. I didn't include this, but I want you to hear it. It has to load. Nope. Use the moment to be present. Listen to this quotation from C.S. Lewis. That is why, at the end of things, when the sun rises here and the twilight turns to blackness down there, the blessed will say, we have never lived anywhere except in heaven, and the lost will say, we were always in hell, and both will speak truly. That is why at the end of things, when the sun rises here and the twilight turns to blackness down there, he's speaking of in scale, time, the end of things, as the beginning is in. The blessed will say, we have never lived anywhere except in heaven, and the lost, we were always in hell, and both will speak truly. Okay, Doug.
All right. Love Mr. Lewis. Now we have Julie in the queue, Guy. I will unmute you, Julie. You can unmute yourself. There you go.
Hi, Guy.
Hi, Julie.
So my old roommate, I was born in a house where you didn't, you let the dishes soak so things didn't get stuck on them. And to her, she grew up in a house where water in a dish or something is stagnant water. So we just had this thing of changing it. I fill up the cups, the dirty cups, then she'd dump it all out. And then we did this for 2 years. But it was lighthearted. Now, in a more serious note, don't you think John Gray's work with Mars and Venus, or the rules that you bring to the table about what a friend is, I'm just surprised that more people don't clear the context for people's rules, because so much of problems have to do with misunderstanding, me assuming you have the same rule book as me, and I just don't know why. And so really no one's maybe to blame for anything except for
Okay. So Julie, because I have to bring the class to an end, your intuition here is correct, but you still have a question why that is that way, which means you haven't seen you are that way yet.
Oh, I know, I have seen I'm that way.
No, Julie, if you saw it, you wouldn't wonder why. When you see that you literally move from moment to moment to moment, from person to person, literally from thought to thought to thought, and that with every movement that takes place in you, it is the movement of something trying to keep in place the rules, and seeing that where it goes, nothing will challenge that. This conditioning is the body of the ruler. These conditions that we live from that we do not know are in us, and they are not ours alone, not by any stretch of the imagination, that when we see how fully conditioned we are, we won't have to ask, why is it that people have all these rules? Because we will see that wherever we go, this ruler goes before us to make sure everybody obeys it. The more you see that, the freer you are, the less questions you have, and the more interested you are in seeing deeper and deeper and deeper into what leads to a life that is completely impersonal. Good night, everybody.